Hey everybody, welcome. This is Matt Stone Sr. with eXp Realty, and today I am talking with Andrew Ford, who is the current president of the Utah Central Association of Realtors. Andrew has been in real estate for a long time in a lot of different roles, and so if anybody understands the market, it's going to be him. But Andrew, I was going to ask, so what does the Central Association cover?
You mean like geographically?
Yeah, so like what realtors are you all over?
Okay, so the Utah Central Association covers Utah County. I'll tell you the areas. People don't always know county names, but we go through Utah County. We do cover down into the Richfield area, out to Vernal, out to Price, down to Moab and Monticello.
Okay.
That all becomes part of the Utah Central Association.
So it's a pretty big area, but and more specifically for what we're talking about today, if someone's looking for a home in Utah County, so from Lehigh basically all the way down to Santa Quin and all the cities in between, you're the president of the association that governs those realtors. Is that right?
Well, people joined the association, and so we're all part of the National Association of Realtors, and then we're part of the Utah Realtors Association, and then people can join the local, and we just happen to be the Utah Central Association, and so we take in Utah County, and then these other smaller areas have chapters, and that's all part of Utah Central Association.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. Well, let me ask you this. So every day I talk to people who are considering buying a home for whatever reason, and we'll get into some of those reasons in a minute. But having been in real estate for a long time, where do you recommend that they start? I mean, is it Google, Zillow, Realtor? Should they just drive around? I mean, what's your recommendation?
Now, everybody's got a little bit different kind of a time frame, and so we end up working with people who are moving in from out of state. We have people who are finishing school and graduating to look at their next home. Everybody's at a different stage in their life, and so we find that a lot of people plan ahead and they start doing research a year in advance, and some procrastinate looking until the baby's going to be due next in 3 weeks, and I got to buy a house tomorrow. So we have a house to come home to, kind of a thing. So everybody's a little bit different in their looking and their education process. But we find that over 80% of the people begin their search online. And some are going to Google and they type in a city, or they start just kind of looking to see what's in the area. Of course, there's a lot of syndicated websites out there that are large national names and national brands that people will go to. But when you get to these national brands, they typically don't have somebody who is like just boots on the ground here locally. They end up just selling leads to people. And so, Matt, I'm assuming that this is going to go out to people, or if they're watching it, it's somebody that knows you. So I would recommend to them, if they're just beginning to get their feet wet and they're wanting to get a little educated on the market and how much house their dollar can buy, is I tell them to just go to your website, which is matt.theutahhomes.com.
Yeah, it's a good place to go. Yes.
So I would, because this is an audience that knows you, that's where I would tell them to start, is matt.theutahhomes.com. If they go to one of these national syndicated sites, they're going to have some good information, but when they fill out their name, they're going to get a lot of people calling them that they may not want to hear from. And so they're going to, there's a skit on Saturday Night Live about filling out some information and getting calls incessantly that never stop from people they don't know saying, hey, do you want to buy a house? So if they want to save some time, I just tell them to go to your website, because you have updated information.
Okay, so that sounds good. So let's talk about people in maybe a few specific situations. There's a lot of people that I talk to that maybe they don't have to move right now. They're in a house that, suits their needs a little bit, but they see how low the interest rates are, and they see how high their neighbors maybe are selling their house for. What's your advice to them? Should they sell now and get top dollar and try to find something else, or what would you say?
Well, I think it depends on what people are moving for. Again, we talked, kind of gave examples of people who are just graduating, or baby coming, or they're relocating. But your question is somebody that lives in a home right now,
Right.
should they sell while the market's really hot? And I guess the question to be is, if they're going to sell, where are they moving to, and why are they moving? In Utah, we have some of the largest homes in the whole country. I had a call yesterday from a news publication, and they called to ask, my opinion as to why Utah has the largest square footage in the country.
Okay.
And there was a study that was being done by a HVAC company to see what kind of tonnage they needed to have on their air conditioners and furnaces. And their study showed that we had the largest square footage. So we end up with people that, we have large families also. So let's say they've got a large home, large square foot, and they're becoming empty nesters, and they love their neighborhood and they love their home, but they know they're going to be moving in the next few years. I always want to, someone's asking my advice, should they sell at the top of the market? And I always have to go back to, why are they selling? Do they want to downsize? Do they want to upsize? Are they planning on doing it in the near future? I do expect that we're going to see prices continue to rise, and I expect prices to continue to increase, but I also think we're going to see interest rates rise.
Okay.
So if somebody's planning on financing a home, that's going to help dictate how fast I would recommend them selling. If they're going to do it in the next few years, they're going to be getting a mortgage and they want to leverage their cash, and so they're going to get a larger mortgage. I'd probably tell them to do it now while interest rates are low. If they're selling in cash and buying in cash, it really comes down to motivation. Why are you moving? Is it location? Is it size? Is it amenities? Is it an HOA?
Okay.
Maybe it's not an HOA.
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question very
No, I
well
mean,
or
that
not.
sounds
Sorry.
good. No, that sounds really good. The takeaway, I guess, for me from what you said is, obviously people have a lot of reasons to sell, upsizing, downsizing, marriages, divorces, things like that. But if it's, like I said, if they don't have to sell for any reason, but they're maybe tempted because of low interest rates and, skyrocketing prices, the takeaway would be for me from what you said is, it's not a bad time to sell, and they can get top dollar for their home, and there's no real good reason to put it off.
I think it's a very good time to sell. If someone's contemplating selling, or they want to sell for whatever reason they want to sell, if the question is it a good time right now? And I'd say it's one of the best times
Okay.
that we've had any time I can remember. And I started in the real estate industry back in clear back about 1996. This is the hottest, best market I've ever seen. And I think historically, times with, this will tell that this is one of the very best times for a seller to sell if they're trying to get top dollar for their house. And for them to sell, again, some of it depends on what their plans are. Some people want to sell. In Utah County, we have a lot of people going on missions. And if they want to come back to a new house and they want to buy something, but they don't want to be landlords while they're gone, be an awesome time. If they're
Great.
upsizing, I know a lot of people kind of talk about empty nesters, but not only do we find people downsizing, but we see them upsize because they want a place for their family to come
Right.
and congregate, whether it be for Thanksgiving or barbecues or pool parties.
Sure.
You see people upsizing too. But the question, is it a good time to sell? Absolutely. It's one of the hottest times in history to sell in Utah right now.
Okay. All right, good to hear. Now, what about, let's talk about a different group of people that really need to buy. Maybe they moved here for a job, or their lease is ending, or something where there's some external forces that say, hey, you really need to buy a house right now. Any advice for those guys as far as, obviously we want them to go to my website and those types of things. But can you just talk about the market and maybe what the challenges might be, and the mindset they ought to have?
So I just mentioned it's one of the best times for a seller to sell, and it is. It's a very hot market, and sellers are coming out smelling like roses, and so it's great. It's great for a seller right now. For a buyer, it is a tough market. I actually put some numbers together. Let me just pull this up real quick. This last week, I was running some stats, and if we look at, there we go. If we're looking at year over year of prices, from an asking price to a contract price, we're homes are getting about just over 3% more than the asking price. If we're kind of comparing last year at this time to right now, they're positive 3.1%. That's a lot of money. If you're looking at a $400,000 home, on average, they're getting 12,000 over asking price. The average sales price in the state of Utah, we're up about 25% year over year. Median price up about 17%. But the listings, your question is, what about someone who has to buy? It's such a tight market. We've got new listings are down almost 21% year over year. So it is tough for a buyer right now. But if someone needs a place to live, I guess the advice I'd give them is don't wait, because I wrote down along the mainly the Wasatch Front here. But if we're looking at the state of Utah, year over year, prices increased by almost $104,000 year over year. And that's an incredible appreciation we had this last year. But our inventory right now is so low that I don't see that we're going to see a dip in prices. So if someone needs to buy, even though they feel like they're paying top dollar today, in 6 months from now, they're going to look at it and say, I'm so glad I bought in the spring, because they've gone up another $40,000 or $50,000. And they'll feel like they bought a home on sale and got a discount in 6 months from now. So I'd tell somebody, if you need to buy and you want to buy, I wouldn't put it off. I would buy now and not wait till later.
Well, let's talk about the people who are buying. Maybe they're my clients or another realtor's clients, and they're out there and they're going to open houses and they're taking tours of homes and they're putting in offers, but they're getting beat up. They're getting blown away in some cases. I mean, what could you say to them to kind of help them not give up hope?
Well, everybody's in a little bit different kind of a position, and there's different ways to try to make your offer more attractive to get a home. But I think your question is, what would I tell them to not give up?
Yeah.
The first thing is I would say is the net worth of homeowners is so much greater than that of renters. And the main reason is because price appreciation in their homes. They have value in their homes and it raises their net worth. But we're seeing some price growth right now that I don't see stopping anytime soon, because Utah here, we're expected to double our population over this next 30 years. We're not going to stop growing.
Right.
And most of it's natural childbirth. We have about 20% roughly is net in migration. But with a population increase like we have over the next 30 years, we're not going to be slowing down, and we're not going to stop our appreciation. So for people to start building,
it's not a bubble that people need to worry about. Oh,
no, we're not sitting on a bubble. We have a shortage of homes, and people kind of compare this right now to what was happening in 06, 07, and 8. And there's a lot of differences. You want me to? I could talk a little bit about some of those differences, but it's not answering your question exactly. But maybe I'll get into that a little later on. But I don't think we're on a bubble. So to help somebody to not get discouraged is, I would say, you got to go through some of the pain and agony of buying a home today and feeling like you're paying top dollar, but you will begin building wealth by buying a home. And your net worth will grow today, and it's going to grow substantially in the future just by having it. Part of it's a forced savings account because you're paying down the principal, but much of it is really your growth in your equity. And when people look at investments, they look at the growth of the value of the home. But if you look at your down payment and compare your down payment as a net return on investment for what the home appreciates at. I mean, this last year, someone bought a home and they put $20,000, $30,000 down, and their return with the appreciation of home is about $104,000. Well, the return on their investment is massive. Phenomenal. because they leveraged it with the mortgage, and they still pay that down. But if you lock in your interest rate, you have a low interest rate that could be 10, 15, 20, or 30-year mortgage that you get to appreciate for 3 decades potentially at a low interest rate. Yeah. So to help somebody not get discouraged, I would say don't give up. It may be a really tough market for you as a buyer, but don't give up, because if you give up looking, you're going to give up tens and tens eventually hundreds of $1,000s of equity that you'll have in that home if you give up.
So not only are they, if they give up, if they get discouraged, they lose hope, they give up, not only are they giving up the home where they're going to raise children, make memories, have barbecues, all those types of things, but they're also giving up that huge financial growth potential with the equity in their home.
Well, the growth, we don't know how high that's going to go, but and we don't know what rate of acceleration it's going to continue to go at. But we will be appreciating, and they do lose that equity. So if we're just looking at it financially, people come out way ahead by owning a home versus renting. I've had a few people that have called through to me recently and said, "We want to buy a home." I said, "Why are you wanting to buy? What's your motivation?" And they said, "Well, our rent has doubled, and our landlord's telling us when it renews again, they're going to increase it again by at least half."
Wow.
And the reason is because they can get it. There's such a shortage of homes. So if somebody, not only are they going to pay more in rent, but they lose um, the appreciation. Now everybody does their taxes different, and we can itemize or not itemize now.
Yeah.
But if somebody itemizes, they lose that mortgage interest tax deduction as well. So there's other benefits to owning a home too.
Okay. All right.
Like you said, raising a family, I think the number one reason for people to move is because of their lifestyle.
Right.
They're buying a home for lifestyle. The financial benefits are one thing, but do they want a backyard because they have animals? Do they want a backyard because they have kids and they want them to have a swing set? Do they want to have a garden? Do they want to plant their own trees and bushes and flowers? There's a lot of benefits of owning a home. And then you have people that also want to own a home, but they don't want the upkeep. So maybe they go into an HOA. Everybody's got different reasons.
Sure.
But the number one reason for owning a home is really so you can do what you want in it.
What you want to do with your life and your family. That's awesome. So let me ask you about this other group. As many people as I talk to that are, gung ho, they want to buy a home, they're excited about it. It's a great milestone in their life. There's a lot of people too that say, you know what, the market is just too crazy right now. We're going to wait it out. Home prices are too high. We're going to wait till they come back down. Now, I try to tell them in the nicest way possible that I don't think home prices are ever coming back down, but I would love for them to kind of hear your opinion about it.
Well, there's always going to be a bit of a roller coaster of things. But if we're looking at general trends over the next 30 years, if we're looking in Utah, specifically on the Wasatch Front here, I see us going up really for this next 30 years. And there's always some peaks and some valleys, but I don't see us I see us really going up and maybe plateauing for a little bit and then going up and then plateauing and then going up. I don't really see a big down side on our home pricing anytime soon. Builders are building as fast as they can, and we cannot keep up with inventory.
Yeah.
So in the state of Utah, this last legislative session here in 2021, they passed some new legislation that allows accessory dwelling units.
Right,
And part of that is because they're trying to alleviate some of the pain and the pressure that our housing market's feeling right now because we don't have enough housing. And so they're looking at saying, if someone is in a home, maybe there's one or two people, but they're living in thousands and thousands of square feet, and they maybe have a accessory dwelling above the garage or in the basement. The state is wanting to open up all of these extra living areas for people to live because we have such a shortage. So I don't see, we're definitely not sitting on a bubble with our real estate market right now. Our affordability index, a couple of years ago, we were extremely affordable. And with interest rates dropping down, that surely helped us out. But our prices have gone up faster than our wages.
Right.
And so if we're kind of looking at median home price and median wages, they don't quite line up right now. It is a little bit expensive, but I don't see that changing anytime soon. I think our wages will start increasing. We're going to see more accessory dwelling units. We're going to see some tiny houses. We're going to see builders building it as fast a pace as they can. We might see some immigration changes where it allows seasonal workers coming in to alleviate some of our labor shortage that we have. There's a lot of things. There's not one answer to answer our question, but to answer your question, to be very simple, is prices are going to go up. and they not just in 2021, but I don't see in the next 5 years that we're going to slow down. And if somebody says, hey, maybe year number 6 they'll come down, that there could be some possibility to a plateau or maybe even a little dip. But in 6 years, that dip won't bring us back to 2020 prices.
Right. So the people that I talk to who say, we're going to wait till 2022, or we're not even going to think about it this year. I know no one has a crystal ball, of course, but with the trajectory and your knowledge, do you think they might regret that decision come next year? That now, not taking into account that maybe they're doing better financially or anything like that, but all things being equal on that end, um, can you see any good reason to not buy now and wait till next year?
If someone has the ability to buy right now, my advice to them would be that they should buy it right now. If they wait 3 months, if they wait 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, I think that financially they will regret it.
Okay.
The only reasons I would tell somebody that they should wait is, they've got to go a couple of months until they have graduation, or there's some illness in the family, they need to overcome that, or they
Something
have some kind of
lifestyle-wise.
inheritance that they're getting in 6 months from now. I mean, there's going to be a couple of reasons, but they're all outliers. But for the average person who's looking, should I buy today or should I wait? Without question, I would say buy right now. And that's not because I sell homes for a living and I only get paid for results, because I don't know who is going to see this. But my advice to them, I've got a brother who called me this morning. He doesn't live in Utah. He was asking me about, should he buy or should he rent for 6 months? I told him, absolutely buy as soon as you can. Rates are lower now than I believe they'll be later this year. And the prices are definitely lower now than they will be later this year. It's kind of a double whammy, higher interest rates and a higher price if they wait.
Okay. So last question here. When people are looking at a home, of course, they've got this ideal home in their mind. They've got all these boxes they want to check. It needs to have this much square footage and this many bedrooms and garage size and RV parking, and the list goes on and on and on and on. In this market with so few homes, if you were sitting down with someone and they're like, well, we've seen a bunch of homes, but we haven't seen one that checks all the boxes, or if it does check all the boxes, it's just way out of our price range now. What would you say to them?
Well, it used to be that we'd, have people write down, what are your 10 got tos? It's got to have this size of a yard, and it's got to have this age of a roof and electrical and plumbing and heating, air conditioning systems. And it's got to have a swing set. It's got to have a 5-car garage. They have all these got tos. We kind of tell people, let's get our 10 got tos. But we had a 12-month supply of inventory when I used to ask people that question. Well, right now we have close to a half a month inventory. And that means if no new homes came on the market, we'd run out of our inventory within just a few weeks. We just don't have enough in there. So to be very picky means that there's a good likelihood they're not going to get it. And so I would say you take your 10 got tos and whittle it down to your top 2. What does it got to have? And really just focus on those 2 things, because there's a lot of things that can change on a home that you can update later. And there's some out-of-pocket expense when people have to rip out carpet or old cabinetry or redo certain things in the home. But I ask people, what's the reason you're moving? What's the reason you're buying? And if that reason is big enough, you can overcome a lot of things. You could take those other got tos and throw them down the road 5 years or 10 years. And again, remember, just looking at this year over year, if we're looking at the average price, what did I say, 104,000? Utah County is a little less than that. I think that we were almost about 66,000 year over year price appreciation. Someone's in the home even a year, they get a home equity line of credit, take out some cash just from the appreciation of the home, and then they can redo lighting and plumbing fixtures. They can redo the countertops and the bathrooms. But those are things that are cosmetic and can be done later on. So I'd say number one that people look at is, are you in the neighborhood you want? Is this a floor plan you can live with?
So things that you can't change. You can't change the floor plan very easily or inexpensive. You can't change the neighborhood. Can't change the number of bedrooms or bathrooms very easily, but you can sure change that flooring or paint the walls or remodel cabinets pretty easily compared to
Yeah,
those other got to have.
and everybody's got different kind of got to. So with Utah, we do have some net in migration. So people are coming in for tech sector jobs. They want to be somewhere on the north end of the valley of Utah County or the south end of Salt Lake County. And people from different states have different idea of what a commute is. If you go down to Texas, they don't think anything of an hour commute in both directions.
I can
I've
attest,
been
yeah, an hour and a half, no problem.
It's not a big deal. People in LA, they go 5 miles and it takes 2 hours. They're used to that kind of congestion.
Sure,
Get to other parts of the country, and they don't want that. They want a 5 minute commute. And so, depending on who they are, they might want to be in Lehigh or Draper or Riverton. They want to be right next to where this tech sector is. You have other people that have kids, and they say, "Well, we want to move because we've got to have more square footage, but we don't want to move the kids' school." So their boundaries are in their elementary school boundaries, or they're only in their high school boundaries, and it limits where they're looking. But they know specifically they want to be in that high school boundary.
sure.
Well, if that's your got to, that becomes one of your got tos. And the second one, is going to be a little different for everybody. It might be, does it have the right square footage? Does it have the right garage count? Does it have the right kind of acreage? What's that second got to? If the school is one of them, the other one has got to be in there. Everything else can be kind of negotiable. And if we get real picky, we just may not have it. And I've got a family that I really love dearly, but I've been working with them for about 7 years now, looking at a home to buy, and they haven't decided on a home because they've got 100 got tos, and no home has 100 got tos,
No,
and they still haven't purchased. And in that time, homes have doubled in price, and what they could have got before, the price point has just gone up so substantially that they've priced themselves out of the market, and they're actually going to give up now because the home is now like a $2 million home that they want, and it just becomes a little bit too much for them. So you delay, you delay, you delay, and all of a sudden you just priced yourself out of the market. So anyway, my advice is get at least two got tos and stick to that. Everything else is negotiable.
and kind of remember, why are we moving in the first place? What I doubt it was because you wanted a better carpet. I doubt it was because you didn't like the cabinets. I mean, I'm sure all those things play into it, but was it, an increased quality of life? Do you need more space? Do you want a better neighborhood? Is it schools? Is it that commute? And go back to why you are moving, and let's find a house that fits that.
Yeah, what's the real why? And if it's somebody who doesn't own a home now and they're a first time home buyer, maybe they're not a first time home buyer, but they have rented for a few years, and now they're buying again. There was a lot of people hurt during the Great Recession that had foreclosures or deed in lieu or short sales, and damaged their credit.
Right.
And now they're back on their feet again, and now they're buying. Um, what's the reason to buy? Are you trying to sink some roots in? Are you trying to build net worth? Are you trying to just not feel like you're living out of a suitcase because you're renting? You're trying to just have your own place because you can call the shots. What's the real reason? If you get right down to why are you moving and why do you want to buy a home, that's the number one reason over anything else. And usually it's lifestyle or comfort or just setting roots down. People with kids, medically speaking and educational wise, studies have been done on families that live in a home versus renting. Those kids do better because they feel more stable. They feel like they're secure where they're living, and so they're more comfortable to actually focus on their studies. So there's always different kinds of reasons, but you're right, Matt. Why are you moving? Don't forget that.
Right. Well, wonderful. Well, Andrew, thank you so much. I think this was a lot of great information that can apply to a lot of people that are in different situations, looking for a house, whether it's right now or maybe, in 6 months or a year or that kind of thing. So thank you very, very much. And to everybody that's watching this, if you have any questions about some of the things we've talked about, reach out to me, send me an email, a voicemail, a phone call, a text message, a carrier pigeon, whatever. And I will get back to you and do my best to answer all your questions. So hopefully you'll tune in again next week. And until then, stay safe out there and happy house hunting.
Thank you, Matt.